What's up, everybody? I'm your host, Charles Simmons, and this is the Football Express podcast. So I'm not going to ramble on too much. I do have a little update for y'all. Coming up next week, we're going to be going live for the Louisville game, the ACC spring game. We're going to be covering the ACC conference as a whole. I'm going to have some guests on there. It's going to be next Friday. I'll have the date set in stone. I'm not sure how early I'm going to go live before the spring game starts, so I'll keep y'all updated. So stay tuned. Check out the social links in the bio so y'all can stay up to date with everything that I'm adding to this brand, everything I'm adding to the channel. But enough of that. Let's go ahead and get into our daily news. All right. The NFL, I'm going to pull up the graphic now. The NFL has went out and added 12 new helmets for this upcoming season. 8 of those helmets are designed for linemen and quarterbacks, which is very good to see that they're actually now trying to improve the equipment that the quarterbacks are wearing, that the players overall are wearing. And they've stated that 5 of these helmets perform a lot better than previously worn helmets. But like you see, these are all lab tested performance. So many of these have not hit the field. They have not been tested out in live action. So adjustments always can be made. But I'm glad to see the NFL has started the past several years to make steps to improve players' health, to improve the equipment that these players are wearing, to kind of make the game a little safer so these guys can play a lot longer. Now, we've seen back in 2022, 2021, they added the Guardian caps, so it'll make safety in practice. I swear. I'm really sorry, y'all. My speech is very bad. I am illiterate, so please excuse me on that. But I hope y'all can be okay with it. Anyways, enough of that. Let's go ahead and keep going. The Atlanta Falcons, they have went out and signed Kevin King, former Green Bay cornerback, former second-round pick in 2017. He has not played since 2021. So that could impact his ability to perform. But he was a solid corner when he was playing. So he's only been out for 3 years. Obviously, if they're going to go out and sign him, that means he's been staying in shape. And they see that he still has potential to give them something. Now, he is 28, so it's not like they're expecting him to really go and be a corner number 1. So I can see him being, probably corner number 2, number 3, as they allow Clark Phillips to kind of step up and be that number 2 corner beside AJ Terrell. Tart, former defensive tackle for Tennessee Titans and Houston Texans, has now signed with Miami. We've seen this past offseason, Christian Wilkes has decided to sign with the Raiders. So the Miami Dolphins were kind of missing out on that defensive tackle, really missing out on that defensive line. So they went out, grabbed somebody who can be arguably top 15 in his position. And it's good to see that they're adding to the trenches, because you cannot win without having good players in the trenches. If you don't perform well in the trenches, you're not going to win championships. You can have great receivers, great quarterbacks. You can have great guys in the secondary. But if you don't have a developed, well-performing offensive line that can block, you're not going to really have a good offense. If you don't have a defensive line that can cause pressures and generate sacks, you're not really going to win any games defensively. You're not going to make offenses uncomfortable. So I think that's a concern Miami's had for a couple years, several years actually, that their defensive line has not been what it really should be. But everywhere else on their team, their secondary, great secondary. You remember the secondary that they kind of had with everybody. Now, some of those players have retired or signed to other teams, but they had a good secondary. Or their receiving core is very good. but their offensive line's not. So it's good that they're making adjustments and they're targeting their weaknesses. Now, how far Miami can go, only time can tell. I mean, there's so much summer ball to watch. There's the draft that's still coming up. So they still have some more key concerns to focus on. Plus, the AFC North is really wide open for the taking. There's no one team I think has the advantage over anybody. Other news, Kansas City has decided to re-sign Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He's been with Kansas City. Now it's going to be his fifth season with Kansas. And he's not your RB1, but he's a solid RB2. I think any team in the league would like to have a guy like him, use him in the red zone, third down. He's a good receiving back. He's a reliable receiving back. He's probably not in the top 5 in his position when it comes to being a receiving back, but he's a very reliable receiving back. You can use him in the red zone. So that's a good re-signing. I mean, they're keeping the pieces that help their offense function. Now they just need to go out there and add some weapons. In other news, Tavon Sweat, a defensive tackle out of Texas, who is projected to be a first round draft pick, was arrested for a DUI in Texas. Now this is going to affect his draft stock. Obviously, he's probably going to drop in the draft, and it sucks to see somebody young making a mistake like this. But it's better for him to make them early and not do anything too stupid to ruin his career. But I remember Nick Saban saying something in a speech after Henry Ruggs got into that accident. I think as players and coaches, mainly players, like I've played ball and I have friends who play ball, and we all kind of look after one another. And if I have somebody that I'm on a team with, and we might be drinking because we're 21, 22 years old, we're not going to drive. I'm surely not going to drive, and I'm not going to let him drive anywhere. He might be mad at me. He might not like me taking his keys away. You know what I'm saying? Some things might be said that neither one of us are going to like. But as a teammate, as a friend, you're not going to let somebody do that. You're not going to let somebody continue to, make mistakes, or you're not going to let somebody go out and make a mistake that could affect their future. Nick Saban said it once before, if you're a good teammate, if you're truly his teammate, you're truly his friend, and y'all truly are a team, you're going to look after one another, and you're not going to allow them to go out and do things like this. And it's kind of sad to see that nobody is willing to hold anybody accountable. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's willing to look after one another. Everyone's supposed to, you're playing on a team. Y'all supposed to be teammates. Y'all supposed to look out for one another. When I played football, it was like we're a family. You know what I'm saying? And as a family, you look after one another. And it kind of sucks to see that nobody's really doing that. But enough of that. Right now, we got some other things to talk about. And one of those things we're going to talk about is ESPN has decided to drop their top 10 quarterbacks, as I have it right here. Kirby, DeBoer, Kyle, Dabo, Mike, Dan Lanning, Steven Sarkisian, Lane Kiffin. You have Lance Leopold, Ryan Day. I probably bought some of those names. I skipped right over Utah's coach's last name. I'm really bad. I'm so sorry, y'all. But anyways, looking at this top 10, obviously Kirby's going to be one. No more Nick Saban, so he's not going to be on the list. DeBoer being number 2, I'm fine with that. What he's done at Washington, only being in the Power Five for 2 years. I like that, honestly. I think he is top five at least. Now, with Utah's coach being at number three, I get the longevity. Okay, what he's done, he's been at Utah forever. He's been at Utah basically his entire coaching career. So I get why they have him up there. He's been his longevity. He's won multiple titles at Utah. He hasn't really had a bad season. But you have coaches like Steve Sarkisian, who what he's done at Texas, I think he probably should be number three. Lane Kiffin, what he's done at Ole Miss. Dan Lanning, what he's been able to perform, I kind of like his spot. But there's a couple other coaches that I would say make an argument for number three. Debo, I can see why he's at number four, but the past couple years, he has not. That Clemson team has not been the same Clemson team that we watch win those national championships, that we watch with Deshaun Watson, that we watch with Trevor Lawrence. Okay, this is not the same Clemson. Like I mentioned in yesterday's video talking about their spring game, right? That offense struggles a whole lot. Defensively, they're still great defensively, and that's something that, props to Debo. You're continuously having a great defense. But since Trevor Lawrence, since Deshaun Watson, you have not really had any offense. And you kind of ruined DJ, right? He wasn't really a good fit for the team. He moves on, has a good season at Oregon State. Now you got Cade Klubnik, who was supposed to be another highly rated quarterback, does not perform very well. Looking at him in the spring game, he does not seem very comfortable. And there's probably a quarterback battle brewing, and we're going to see that throughout the summer. Steve Sarkisian has taken Texas and put them back on the map. You always hear Texas is back. Texas is back. Well, with Steve Sarkisian, I really think Texas is back. They're going to be a very dominant team in the SEC. I don't think they're going to take too many steps off, because when you look at the SEC, it's going to be Georgia, Bama. And then after Georgia, Bama, who else you got? Missouri, Texas. So with Alabama having to readjust, Texas coming in with already having the chemistry as a team, your coach already knows what he wants to do with the team. He's experienced with the team. Texas is going to have a good shot at winning the SEC. So why he's at 7 doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. Same thing with Mike Norvell with Florida State. When it comes terms of who's the best coach in the ACC, as of right now, I think it's Mike Norvell. The way he was able to flip Florida State around, and he's still bringing in more players, bringing in a good recruiting class. He's returning some of the same players he had last year. I don't think he's going to have really too much of a step back. You've only seen Mike Norvell improve at Florida State. So they went 13-1 last year. I can see them going 13-1 again. They might not go undefeated. They might drop a game, go 12-2. But undefeated is the ceiling. The worst I see them going in the regular season, it's probably 11-1. You know what I'm saying? 10-2. I don't really see them taking too much of a step backwards. So I would personally have Mike Norvell at least 4. Dabo, I'll probably drop him down to 7. Steve Sarkisian, I'll move him up to 3. Lane Kiffin, I'll move him up to 5. Dan Lanning at 6. I'll move Utah's coach to 8. Ryan Day, I'll move him up to 9. If I had just to readjust the coaches here. But these are all the coaches that they have left off. I didn't even get into this yet, right? Brian Kelly with LSU. Has everybody forgotten what he did at Notre Dame? At one of the hardest colleges to recruit for because of academics. Brian Kelly with LSU. SEC-wise, he's top 4 coach in the conference alone. And I promise you, if he was to go to any other conference, he'll probably be top 2, number one coach in that conference. Put him in the ACC. I think Brian Kelly is a better coach than Mike Norvell, better coach than Dabo Swinney. There's an argument between him and Mike Norvell. Dabo Swinney, I think a lot of the argument for him leans towards on what he did in the years past. So Brian Kelly has been able to keep that performance going. So Brian Kelly, honestly, if it was my opinion, he would be in my top 10. The Utah coach probably wouldn't. Dan Lanning probably wouldn't, because you have guys like Mike Grudy from Oklahoma State, you know what I'm saying, who has consistently been a really good team. He's been a really good coach. He's produced very good players, very good teams. Has always been pretty competitive in the Big 12. Now with Oklahoma and Texas leaving, Oklahoma State has the opportunity to be the best team in the Big 12. Deion Sanders is another coach. Obviously, he has not won as many awards. He hasn't won as many championships. But what he's been able to do with programs, turning them around, he's probably turned around programs better than anybody else right now in college football. He's probably done it better than any other coach has done in the past couple of decades. The way he turns around programs is very impressive. Obviously, he don't have the championships to really justify him being a top 10 coach, but the way he turns programs around, the way he speaks to players, he gets players to kind of buy into the culture that he's creating. It's really good as a coach to have those, have those kind of assets to be able to get players to buy in like that. And other coaches, like Mike Brown from North Carolina, if you're considering longevity, Mike Brown has probably been one of the most consistent coaches when it comes to longevity. He's been a very consistent coach in the ACC. He's produced very talented teams with North Carolina. If you're going to make the argument for Utah's coach, I would make the argument for North Carolina's coach. Now, enough of that. So, there's this little thing I seen going through Twitter. Choose your NFL draft offense. You got one quarterback, two receivers, one running back, and one tight end. Now I'm going to kind of leave it off. This is how I'm going to end the video. So in the comment sections, tell me what quarterback, what two receivers, what running back, and what tight end would you choose to build your offense? Out of the draft, who would you use to build your offense? I'm going to go ahead and put mine out there. I personally would go Jaden Daniels, Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, or Marvin Harrison, because you got to kind of choose one from each row. So Marvin Harrison be the first receiver. He's the best receiver in the draft, in my opinion. I obviously got to take him. And then if I have to go receiver number 2 in that second row, it's very tough, because Xavier Worthy, he's a speed freak. You know what I'm saying? You have somebody that has great size, strength to him like Marvin Harrison does, but then you pair him up with a speed freak like Xavier Worthy. I think that's a really good 1-2 combination. But then you can add in Ladd McConkey. You have two receivers that really know how to find the zones well, that really know how to run their routes according to the zones to find the open spacing on the field. You got two very smart players, two very smart receivers. I think that would be a lethal receiving group. So if I had to choose, I'd probably go Marvin Harrison and Xavier Worthy. I probably would like to have a balanced receiving core, have a really good route runner, speedy guy, have a good route runner, but very physical. Running back wise, this is another question. I would probably go Brandon Allen out of Wisconsin. Just watching him play, he's a very versatile running back. He can kind of do it all. Plus, if I just need to hand the rock off 15, 20 times a game because the secondary, for some reason, is having the opportunity to clamp down on my receivers, Allen being able to carry the rock 15, 20 times a game, he can definitely do it. Tight end wise, there's no question tight end wise. If you choose anybody else out of those tight ends, I don't know why, but Brock Bowers would be the guy I choose. So like I said, go into the comments, y'all. Let me know 5 guys that you're going to choose. Like I said, choose one from each row. Put them down in the comment section below and let me know. And with that, thank y'all for tuning in. I appreciate it, y'all. I will definitely see y'all next time. Like always, like, subscribe. Uh, go click the links in the comment or in the description below. And check out my TikTok. Check out the website so you can stay up to date. With all that said, thanks y'all. See y'all next time.